The World Ends With You is an interesting game from the experimental era. Definitely a hidden gem of the DS library, it captivated many who experienced its story and its gameplay at the time of its release in the US in 2008. I used to hear nothing but how amazing and unique this game was, but I had never properly sat down and played it for myself until now. I remember giving it a shot and not liking the controls on the original DS, so I dropped it until it came out on the Switch and I tried it now. What's my take on the cult classic, you might ask? It's alright. I mean, I can see why so many people like this game. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's the greatest game of all time, like I've been told, but it's alright. The World Ends With You follows the story of a teenage boy named Neku who suddenly awakens in the busy crosswalks of a crowded Shibuya. However, no one can see or hear him. In fact, it turns out that he's not even really there. He's a part of some Gantt-style challenge called the Reaper Games, where he must survive 7 days while also completing an objective each day. Neku teams up with some colorful characters and learns about how he ended up in this strange situation, all while trying to avoid being erased completely from existence. This simple premise is the basis of our story, and it's what gets the player invested in it. But we're not here to really go over the story or the game as a whole. This is more of me talking about what I liked and didn't like about the game. So let's move on to the controls. The controls were done during the DS's experimental era of touch controls, so everything was done on the bottom screen at the time. Movement, attacks, menu buttons, everything was done through the stylus. I for one do not like touch controls, so playing this game was particularly difficult for me. At the time, I did not like how it played on the DS because of these touch controls, and there was an extra system called the Pass the Puck system, where you would jump from the bottom screen to the top screen and back to the bottom screen, and it was jarring enough for me to never get the hang of it. Touch controls have always been difficult for me, and I just can't seem to grasp them. But on the Switch, which is a port of the mobile version, the Switch has stylus support in the form of a standard tablet stylus, and everything's a lot more simplified. Swiping and scratching and tapping your character and enemies, which is what you use for the different attacks, is a lot easier on the Switch version with a stylus to me than it was on the DS with its stylus. That's not to say that I didn't have my fair share of problems with these controls. There were some bosses later in the game that didn't feel as rewarding because of the way I had to play. I had picked a certain number of attacks because you can customize your attacks, and I used them pretty much the same way the whole game. And after a couple of grind sessions, none of the enemies really gave me that many problems. Fighting some of these bosses wasn't as rewarding as they were made out to be, and by the time I made it to the New Day extra content, I was already powerful enough that a lot of the fighting in that section was more of a chore than an extra sense of accomplishment. There were also some story beats that didn't resonate with me as much as they were intended to. For example, there's a character, her name is Rhyme. She was introduced as this not as physically powerful but very smart young girl. She helps out her partner in solving these riddles and keeping him alive and on his toes while he does all the legwork because he's a better fighter. She gets thrown into a situation that kind of ups the stakes for our characters, trying to be as vague as possible, and in doing so, everyone feels the weight of these Reaper games, that this isn't just some game of hide and seek and tag where everything will be fine at the end of the day, that things are serious. But you only really see her like 3-4 times in the game before this happens. So to me, I wasn't attached enough to say really feel like it was more tragic than it was. Not to say that it wasn't, because I get what they were going for, I know what they were doing, and for some people it hurt because she is this strong, adorable, smart character who clearly does not deserve to be in a part of these games, and she's made an example of real quick. She's thrown into a situation and she can't handle by herself real quick, and you're like, man, anything can happen. But it just didn't resonate with me as much, I guess, because I didn't see her enough. If there was a little more interaction with her, maybe had her last before this situation came about in a couple extra chapters in the game, maybe I would have felt it, because they do something similar with one of your partners later in the game, and I felt more of an attachment to that, simply because you've been fighting with them for so long. They also do a character beat with Neku where at the start of the game he's this antisocial, very confrontational kind of leave me alone emo character, and though I don't have a problem with that inherently, I mean I don't usually care for those kind of characters because I feel like they're made to be edgy for the sake of being edgy or something, but they're clearly doing this as something tragic happened to him, he feels like it was terrible and he's pushing people away because he doesn't want to get hurt again, and I get that, I do, but I think this one has to do with my timing with the game, because prior to coming back to the World Ends with You and seeing his character development through this way, I played Tales of the Abyss, and they do something similar with the main character Luke in that game, where he is a complete selfish jerk until like halfway through the game, where he sees that his selfishness is really messing with him and causing more trouble for the people that chose to stay by him, so he actively works to better himself throughout the rest of the game. Neku kind of does that. He's very antisocial, confrontational, and distant in the first set of chapters, and then the second set of chapters he's a little more open, but the transition isn't as fluid, I guess. It's not as seamless as it was with Tales of the Abyss, and I think that's why I didn't care for it as much. This is something I can talk about in a whole other video, and I probably will, but I just didn't like it as much as other people did. That being said, it doesn't mean I hate this game. Far from it. There are some parts in the story that I really did enjoy. I did enjoy the swapping of the party members. That was a little refreshing, just seeing Neku interact with different characters in different ways. I did enjoy the interactions with the villains, not the fights. Each interaction, each villain had their own very unique, very interesting personality that I greatly enjoyed, that I would love to see more of, especially in other games. I would love to see their villains flesh out a little bit better, and this is coming from someone that plays JRPGs all the time, where villains can be the main focus. The World Ends with You villains were really fun to fight against in terms of personality. I really enjoy the music of this game. I've been playing some of it in the background of this video. It is stellar. Even when I stopped playing the game back on the DS, I have had the soundtrack on my MP3 player for years. The music is great. If you need any kind of example so you can hear it without hearing my annoying voice, top 3 choices I have are Calling, Hybrid, and one of the many versions of Twister. Just type either one of them into YouTube and you're golden. I also I greatly enjoy the character designs. Every single one of them has that distinct Square Enix flair that you all know of, but they also look like characters you can see walking down the street. Now some of them are a little overblown, like Neku's oversized jacket, Beats necklace that's bigger than his neck, stuff like that. But every design, every color palette, everything used makes each character look as unique and interesting to me as possible, to where I honestly don't think I could tell you that I've seen any single one of those designs a second time, except for maybe Neku's, and he just suffers from Square Enix main character syndrome. You know the one. But every single design I greatly enjoyed. Despite whatever gripes I have about this game, I really did enjoy it. I did enjoy going through its story, I did enjoy seeing the twist that it gave me, and I did enjoy seeing how the characters developed. It was nice putting the music that I've been listening to for years to the source material. Though I don't think I would ever go through it more than once. I think I played it enough to understand what I was getting, and I'm okay with that. I can see why a lot of people enjoy this game. It definitely deserves a lot of credit, and judging by how the New Day content exclusive to the Switch ends, and a couple of some weird sketchy stuff going on behind the scenes, it sounds like there might be a World Ends with You 2 coming around the corner. I'm not sure if I would pick it up, but I am definitely interested in where they take this story. And if you happen to have a Switch, I would say it's worth picking up, giving a try. I would recommend playing in the handheld mode with the little tablet stylus. I feel like that was the best way to do it. but there's other ways you can play it too. You can play it in the handheld mode using the Joy-Con pointer, you can point it at your TV. There's also a co-op mode if you have a buddy you want to go through it with. Either way is fine, whichever is comfortable for you, but it's definitely worth taking a look at.